Greetings parade watchers, and welcome to a new history video. As today, we'll be looking into the most famous bird in the parade. Actually, let me rephrase that. The second most famous bird in the parade. From the most famous street, Big Bird. From the beloved children's classic, Sesame Street. Ever since his debut in the show's beginnings in 1969, he has been one of the most recognizable Muppet characters ever created, next to Kermit the Frog. From the show, to a movie, to even getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It's time to talk about this parade legend, when he was a giant balloon, in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Big Bird made his parade debut in 1988. In preparation for Sesame Street's 20th anniversary in 1989. With Children's Television Workshop as his sponsor. The design shows our feathery friend, wearing a sweater, with the letters ABC in the front, with numbers at the bottom, as well on the top of his hat. He's also accompanied by 3-letter ball balloons. A is for alligator, B is for Bert, and C is for Cookie Monster.
Sing a song, make it simple.
I hear Beast looking at Bert and Ernie. We see the best, we got the greatest view in the world right here. You should get this job, but wait till I get out of my contract. Bert and Ernie know that the A is for Apple and the B is for Big Bird. And speaking of Big Bird, how about shot? What a shot.
He then became the first balloon in 1989 to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Sesame Street.
That was Dixie Carter singing, and look who's here in front of Macy's. It's Big Bird. Ordinarily, his beat is Sesame Street, but today he's here on Broadway.
I learned to count watching him, you know that?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
He asked me not to mention I learned to do weather watching.
With them are his building block balloons. It's all furnished by Children's Television Workshop, still teaching kids to count and the alphabet by now to the second generation. Big Bird, he's got 50 handlers there with him. And they're all dressed
His
up
nose is twitching, too. I think he may be a little bit chilly. It takes about 50 handlers to hang on to Big Bird. And this is a very critical shot now because Big Bird is about to make a turn. And when you've got all of that balloon and all of these handlers, you got to really do it right the first time.
Great.
You don't get a second shot.
Don't let go, guys. You think people are excited to see Big Bird or what?
Don Lewis.
His next appearance was in 1990.
Good night.
Good night.
Bert and Ernie, I know somebody who likes you very much because he's flying right over you. The gentle and ever so friendly bird that everybody learns from and everybody loves. It's Big Bird, one of the giant balloons from Sesame Street.
We just got a call from LaGuardia. They got him on the radar.
I believe they do, too. He's from the Children's Television Workshop, and he's brought the ABCs right along with him on all those big balloon balls that are going alongside Big Bird as he comes down Broadway and 34th Street. You know, if Big Bird springs a leak, like I said a few minutes ago, everything is okay because everything on Big Bird is a separate compartment. So if one compartment runs out of helium, the rest will keep him flying high.
And the other great thing today is no wind. It's a perfect balloon handler's dream. I'm glad to hear all these good things are happening because next on the Thanksgiving turkey, and he's my favorite fine-feathered friend. There's nothing like a Big Bird and another Big Bird.
Jane Carr of NBC's Dear John sings, and the Bart Simpson balloon makes his Broadway debut when the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade continues.
He then became the first balloon again in the 65th anniversary parade in 1991.
Best enjoy.
Giant helium balloons are the trademark of this parade, and for our first balloon, it's back to the basics with Big Bird, who's brought along the ABCs on those bouncing ball balloons. Big Bird, of course, is the very
Continuing on in 1992, but with one of the letter ball balloons, is somewhat deflated, and it's lowered to the ground.
I love that Gallibardo ending. That was terrific.
Hey, Willard, in my book, B stands for Big Bird. This gentle heap of flying feathers, furnished by, of course, the Children's Television Workshop, has taught millions of preschoolers how to read. To the delight of all the children watching our parade, Big Bird left his nest on Sesame Street to fly down Broadway today. And, of course, never one to shirk his duties, Big Bird is sporting an alphabet sweater and ABC balloons.
Then in 1993, in preparation for Sesame Street's 25th anniversary in 1994.
Oh, Santa Claus, Katie Couric, Brian Gumble, too. They're my favorite TV stars here at NBC. Oh,
Willard, here's someone who makes any day sunny. Big Bird obviously has taken a detour on Sesame Street and has landed right here where we want him, in Herald Square, home of Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Since 1969, Big Bird has been teaching millions of preschoolers their ABCs and so much more.
wait a minute, they're ABCs. You mean they're NBCs.
Today we honor this noble bird with
The Big Bird balloon was there to celebrate the show's 25th anniversary, but also a brand new Sesame Street float, which our beloved cast and Muppets has not been on a float since the early 80s.
Up, Katie. Look, there's our buddy Big Bird with his alphabet blocks. Look at him.
there he is, Willard. You know, Big Bird never misses an opportunity to teach kids their letters.
Children's Television Workshop furnished our fine feathered prince, and he's making a big statement, weighing in at 450 pounds.
Whoa, that's one big bird. He's 2.5 stories tall, so for all you kids who live in high-rise buildings, Big Bird can teach you your lessons at cloud level.
Hey, this is Big Bird's 6th appearance in the parade. Don't you think got a big hand. I mean, look at the size of that head. Just his hat size, 58 feet around. That's a big head. Our pals from Set.
Next up was 1995.
Peckerington High School Band, Dynamite. And here's our favorite big literary bird. It takes somebody that's king size to help teach millions of kids how to read. In fact, Big Bird is half as tall as the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
That's right, Willard. They have to bring the books out to him because this Big Bird balloon furnished by Children's Television Workshop simply won't fit through the Library of Congress door. Big Bird has now been a balloon in the parade for 8 years, and everything about him is large. His beak is the length of 5 turkeys. All told, Big Bird is the size of the caboose car of a train, but as everybody knows, Big Bird never comes in last.
You got that right, Ace, and everybody loves him. Everybody loves him. The Big Bird balloon has got plenty of room for the 62 Emmys that he's won along with his neighbors on good old 123 Sesame Street.
In the 70th anniversary parade in 1996, CTW did not sponsor Big Bird. Instead, Jim Henson Productions sponsored him.
The Muppets, and how we miss Jim Henson. What a beautiful, sweet, beautiful man. But if you think Big Bird, the Muppets, a big deal, feast your eyes on Big Bird Balloon Color. Provided by Jim Henson Productions. He's 8 times taller and 10 times wider than his fine feathered counterpart, and he's celebrating his 9th appearance in this Macy's parade.
That's right, and Big Bird once gave me a feather off his tail, Willard. I was so honored. And what's nice is that Big Bird is now teaching children whose parents learned their ABCs right on Sesame Street.
And I understand that just last month, Russia joined with the Children's Television Workshop, and now that country's children and their parents can enjoy what millions of children all over the world have been able to do for the last 3 decades.
Thank goodness for CTW providing consistently high-quality programs for our little ones. Thank goodness Big Bird wore a sweater this morning, huh, Willard? It's chilly out here.
In 1997, Big Bird managed to be one of the surviving balloons of the parade that year, along with Arthur, Garfield, Peter Rabbit, Rugrats, Spider-Man, and Bumpy. In terms of the giant balloons, 4 other balloons were either damaged or popped, and 1 balloon caused an accident that made the last 2 balloons removed from the parade. As for Big Bird, one of the letter ball balloons ended up being deflated, and only 2 were present at Herald Square. Also on a side note, Elmo ended up joining in the NBC booth with Katie Kirk.
Well, how do you follow the real Big Bird? With the Big Bird balloon, of course. The bouncing balloons tell it all. A, he's amazing. B, he's a blockbuster. C, he's colossal. Now that's what I call a Big Bird. He's furnished by the people at Children's Television Workshop. Your good friends, Elmo.
Yeah.
Going strong after 29 years and 64 Emmys.
Yeah, and not only that, they still take baths with their rubber duckies.
Thanks, Elmo. You're so great. Will you come visit us again next year?
Oh, sure. If Katie and Willard and I promise to take baths with the rubber duckies.
As long as we don't have to do it together. And stop biting my microphone, Elmo. Are you hungry or something?
Yes, almost hungry. This was fun.
We'll be right back.
Look at the balloon.
Nice lid.
More of Broadway's best and the Garfield Balloon when Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade continues live here on NBC.
In 1998, when Macy's and the people of New York City had the new rules for the balloons on their size limits, the expansion of the handlers and pilots, and have 2 utility vehicles to help control the balloons, Big Bird was one of the balloons that got to stay in the parade. And it was pretty exciting, as Sesame Street was in preparation to celebrate the show's 30th anniversary in 1999. But, like the previous year, the weather was heavy winds, but lots of rain, which managed to deflate 4 balloons before even starting the parade. As for Big Bird, he became the first balloon of the parade that year, which he has not been the first balloon since 1991.
I I'm Katie Couric, along with today's co-host and my co-host from today, Matt Lauer. So what do you think of all this parade business,
It's
Matt?
wet. It's very wet, but it's still a lot of fun. I tell you, my family always warned me that one day I'd be on the street, and apparently they were right. First with the Today Show crowds on 49th Street, now with the folks here in Herald Square.
But no matter how cynical and jaded you get in your old age, and I mean both of us, it does make you feel like
I prefer middle age.
It makes you feel like a kid again, doesn't it?
It really does. It's incredible. The excitement is wonderful. Even the bad weather can't dampen the spirits.
That's right. Winging his way down Broadway behind the real Big Bird is Big Bird Balloon, making his 11th appearance in Macy's parade. Balloon's bird's 10 times wider and 8 times taller than his fine feathered counterpart, tall enough to place the star on top of the big tree at Rockefeller Center.
Furnished by Children's Television Workshop, Big Bird is Sesame Street's every kid. He's helped teach kids how to read and play together over the past 30 years. And in the process, Katie, he's helped bring 71 Emmys home to Sesame Street.
Then came in 1999 to celebrate Sesame Street's 30th anniversary, and the promotion of an all-new Sesame Street movie, The Adventures of Elmo in Grochland.
Incidentally, hovering high above the Sesame Street float on his 9th parade appearance, it's Big Bird Balloon, furnished by Children's Television Workshop. The bouncing ball balloons reminds us that 2 generations of kids have learned their alphabet during Sesame Street's 31 years on TV.
Katie, we just saw the real Big Bird, who at 8 feet 2 could rule the roost at making foul shots. By the way, Big Bird Balloon is 9 times taller than his favorite basketball player.
And that would be?
I am so glad you asked me that. Of course, it's Larry Bird.
NBC's telecast of the 73rd Annual Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade is being sponsored in part by Cotton Incorporated. Cotton, the fabric of our lives. And by Morgan Stanley Dean Witter. We measure success one investor at a time. The stars of the NBC daytime dramas Days of Our Lives and Passions. And Mini-Me from the latest Austin Powers, Vern Troyer. Plus Kevin Bacon and the Bacon Brothers when the parade returns.
In the new Millennium Parade in 2000, the sponsor, Children's Television Workshop, was renamed to Sesame Workshop as we know today.
All right, bird watchers, check out the superstar of the species floating south for the holidays. It's Big Bird Balloon, furnished by Sesame Workshop. His beak, Katie, is the size of 9 turkeys.
Wow, everything's big about this 13-year veteran of Macy's Parade, especially a jumbo job he does teaching millions of kids to read. In fact, Big Bird's half as tall as the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. More than 3 decades of bird watchers, Big Bird watchers that is, can tell you this is no bird brain.
I was thinking, since Al Roker is going to get to do a guest appearance on Sesame Street, maybe Big Bird can do a guest shot on his favorite NBC show.
Which is?
It's The West Wing. Did I just say that? I know, I'm killing you.
Director Paula Thornton says her Buchholz High School band kids are not...
After the 2000 parade, the original Big Bird Balloon was retired, making a total of appearances of 13. The reason why they retired the balloons, it's because the stitches were starting to get furrowed. After getting so many patches, and even the handlers were so exhausted for handling. So this would have been the end for our feathery friend. But then came in the following year in the 75th anniversary parade in 2001, as an all-new balloon. This time, Big Bird is wearing a red winter scarf, with musical notes decorated, and carrying symbols, featuring letters and numbers, we all learned from the show.
Give you a refrigerator or a washing machine in return. Those were the days.
Now check out the new bird in town. Okay, before anyone cries foul, let's just say he's Big Bird II. Sesame Street's beloved feathery friend made his Macy's debut in 1988, but today Sesame Workshop furnishes a brand new Big Bird decked out in a warm red winter scarf adorned with musical notes.
Those symbols bear numbers and ABCs. That's a reflection of what generations of viewers have learned on Sesame Street.
Big Bird's the size of the caboose car of a train, which is what Sesame Street would need to haul all those Emmys, a grand total of 79.
And credit really goes out to Macy's Parade Studio and design team and their chief, John Piper, for designing Big Bird and all of today's magnificent floats and balloons.
Sesame Street meets Broadway on a float furnished by Sesame Workshop. They've provided 2 generations of...
This new balloon would continue on in the parade. Like 2002.
Flying south down Broadway, the friendliest fowl on Sesame Street and the second most famous bird in Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Once again, Big Bird's ready to crash those symbols of knowledge, numbers and letters learned by 2 generations on the children's classic.
At 8 feet 2 inches tall, the real Big Bird should play basketball. The Big Bird balloon, well, he's almost twice as tall as the entire starting lineup for the New York Knicks. Tailing Big Bird, the new Sesame Street.
And in 2003. But interesting enough, Big Bird was not the only Sesame Street balloon that was in the parade, as the Super Grover balloon made its parade debut that year. And even though he's no longer on Sesame Street, Kermit the Frog was in it as well, making this in 2004 to be the only years to have 3 Muppet balloons for 2 years in a row.
Katie, these Franklin Regional kids define a true show band at football games, the 2003 Governor's Inaugural Parade in Pennsylvania, and of course in their dazzling debut here at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
They did a terrific job. Okay, he could be the most famous bird alive. He's certainly got a lot of pluck. It's Big Bird, furnished by Sesame Workshop, the nonprofit educational organization. Big Bird soared to new heights on season 34, reading a story along with First Lady Laura Bush.
His scarf adorned with musical notes, and those symbols feature ABCs and numbers, all the things kids learn from the show Sesame Street.
Big Bird's beak is the size of 2 surfboards, and all in all, he's the size of a caboose car of a train. Only Big Bird, of course, never comes in last. Next year marks the 35th season of Sesame Street, which is really amazing. The show's cultural diversity highlights this year's float, featuring many different ways to say hello, from hola in Spanish to guten tag in German. And
in 2004, to celebrate Sesame Street's 35th anniversary.
And there's more Muppet fun coming up this afternoon. It's a very Merry Muppet Christmas movie. Airs at 2 p.m. on NBC. Okay, bird watchers, check out the superstar of the species. It's Big Bird Balloon, a parade favorite since 1988, furnished by Sesame Workshop, a nonprofit educational organization.
Everything's big about this Macy's Parade favorite, especially the jumbo job he's done when it comes to the ABCs of entertaining and teaching 3 generations of kids over 36 seasons.
While our beloved feathery friend is a 6-year-old in an 8 feet 2 inch tall body on Sesame Street, Big Bird Balloon is more than twice the length of a Cessna Skyhawk airplane.
Recording greats Jose Feliciano and Bare Naked Ladies, plus Garfield, the Big Balloon. The spectacle continues live right here on NBC.
And again in 2005.
Check out the superstar of the species flying south for the holidays. It's the Big Bird Balloon. Happy he's not a turkey today, with a beak the size of 9 of them. Our feathery friends furnished by Sesame Workshop.
Almost half the length of a jumbo jet. Everything's big about this 18-year-old veteran of Macy's Parade, especially the jumbo job he's done teaching so many kids how to read.
On Sesame Street, he's a 6-year-old in an 8 foot 2 inch tall body. Today, Big Bird's tall enough to place the star on top of the tree at Rockefeller Center.
Sesame Workshop, the nonprofit organization behind Sesame Street, brings...
And finally, in the 80th anniversary parade in 2006.
Thanksgiving's second most popular bird wings down Broadway. That is Big Bird, or as Matt's 3-year-old daughter Romy said, Big Bird, furnished by Sesame Workshop with a beak the size of 2 surfboards.
Everything's big about this 19-year veteran of Macy's parade, especially the jumbo job he's done teaching millions of kids how to read. In fact, today Big Bird's half as tall as the Library of Congress, where they'd have to bring the books out to him.
This season on Sesame Street, Big Bird and friends learn about adopting a baby, something our feathered friends should know. Since he hatched on Sesame Street, he's been adopted by more than 74 million Big Bird watchers in the U.S. and in over 120 countries.
After the 2006 parade, the second version of Big Bird was retired, making a total of appearances of 6. A little bit less years than the original, but still enough. In 2007, Big Bird and Super Grover were replaced by Abby Cadabby, the new character that moved into the show, which would only last 3 years. So in total, Big Bird has made a total of appearances of 19. Even though our beloved bird is no longer a balloon, he's still in the Sesame Street float in this year's era of the parade. Now we're done with our feathery friend, as we go and move on to the orange cat in the parade.